Welcome back. Peace be upon you. I'm glad you decided to join us again. By now, you must be as down as one can be. No longer free, totally indebted. The law is our enslaver, our religious institutions under severe attack. And now we find that while being totally oblivious of it, we have actually become worshippers of Satan. Now that's a lot to digest all at once. The question is, have we turned the road? Can we see light at the end of the tunnel? Because obviously, after what we have gone through, there is very little prospect of getting any worse than what we are right now. From now onwards, things should only get better. In order for us to reclaim our freedom, to reclaim our liberty, to end this financial imprisonment, to get back our religious institutions, to free up our law to do what it's supposed to do, to be true worshippers of God and no one else, nobody else is going to do it for us. Each one of us has to do it for ourselves. You see, we have been indoctrinated so long to think as slaves, that we think as sheep, that everything must be done for us. Who is going to set us free? What is the government going to do? What is the church going to do? What is the Maulanas going to do? We have to stop thinking in that way. We have to learn to realize that a free person takes care of himself. He keeps his wealth in his possession. He protects himself. He makes his plans for the future. He makes his decisions for himself, and he faces the consequences of his own decisions. And in order to gain his freedom, nobody is going to give it on a plate. We have to take our own freedom by ourselves. So we have to ask ourselves, what can I do? I can't do it for you, but I can give you pointers as to what we need to do in order to get there. The first thing that we need to do is to free our mental enslavement. In other words, we have got to rethink about everything that we have already taken for granted. Now this may be very difficult to achieve, but with practice we will learn to gain the ability to unthink all the false ideas that have been implanted in our minds and to start seeing the truth once again. Before I do that, I would like to share with you certain principles of an alternate system of administration to give you some idea of where I am heading. I would like to suggest the following. 1. That this system that we put into place must protect and defend our right to practice our faith in the manner of our choosing. So we're not talking about a situation here where we're going to introduce Sharia law and everybody will be forced to wear the hijab when they go into public. Please, that is the furthest from my mind. If you wish to walk in public dressed the way you are, do so. But do not prevent the person who wishes to wear the hijab from dressing in that manner. But you may ask the question, if I wish to walk bare in public, does that mean I'm going to be allowed to do it? This is where the red line is drawn. I've said from the beginning, this system is directed primarily to the believer in God, which means what you do in your private life, in your home, is entirely your own affair. If you wish to walk around on your head wearing no clothes, by all means do so. But when it comes to the public domain, It is the common understanding of what is accepted amongst the various faiths that will prevail. So if you were to walk nude in the public, somebody is going to take offense in it and report you to a court, and all the courts, whether it is a Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Muslim, traditional African, would be following the same principles of a certain level of modesty in public dressing, and that nudity in public will not pass the test. So unfortunately, the line is drawn where it violates the principles of public conduct for people who are believers in God. But what you do in your own home is your own affair. Secondly, no one will be given the power to take decisions on our behalf, whether it is decisions that we agree or disagree with, and which may make us criminals if we reject those decisions. For example, we will never have the situation where somebody will insist that you have to take particular medication, or you will have to do a particular thing if we disagree with it. We could have a situation arising in the near future where the government passes laws that compels people to take particular medication. In the past, we had the situation such as in the 1960s, where people were coming down with an illness, skin was becoming full of rashes, diarrhea, behaving abnormally, and the doctors were firmly convinced that this was due to a microorganism, and that the treatment for this was to use arsenic. Think about it. We were told that arsenic was the treatment for this condition. If this took place today, a law could have been passed and all of us would have been forced, who had this malady would have been forced to take arsenic, a severe poison. Fortunately, this took place in the 1960s, and a clever doctor identified a vitamin deficiency, a B group vitamin deficiency, for the treatment of the condition that came to be known as pellagra. So this tendency to give power in the hands of others, to make laws that govern us and which we are forced to follow, is not always in our best interest. And so we need to be aware of that. Why look at the 60s? We have an example right here, currently. Our Minister of Health believed that for those that were HIV positive, all you needed was liver and beetroot and fresh vegetables. In other words, it was a problem of malnutrition. And if we corrected the nutritional deficiency, we would correct the problem. And as a result of that, the distribution and the availability of antiretrovirals in the public sector was delayed. Then we had a new Minister of Health with a different point of view, and suddenly the policies have changed, and all of us are now held ransom to the decisions made by some individual on top. That is totally unacceptable. No longer can we tolerate a system where somebody, no matter how well informed they are going to take decisions on our behalf for our well-being. All we say is, give us the ideas, give us your ideas, we will think about it, we will decide. Freedom of the individual, the free will of the individual must be preserved. This means no compulsory taxes. The preservation of the geographic integrity of the country we call South Africa, which means no independent Bantustans. And lastly, a commitment by all to mutual defense.